What if your specific person isn't actually delayed for your manifestation? They just happen to be replaying the pattern that you've been replaying. Part of what it comes down to that I'm going to talk about in today's video is changing how you perceive yourself and therefore naturally changing how your SP perceives you. Hello guys, welcome back to another video. We are going in and diving in to your specific person and the one specific belief you guys should hold on to, build on, the assumption to work on. Nothing else in your 3D will matter. No other external factor and all these things that you might think are factors in what's going on in your SP manifestation. They are always secondary and minor, especially when it comes to the 3D. But if you're going to hold on to one specific belief, build on something, that is going to be highlighted in today's video and diving into why the internal identity that you hold on to is really the most important thing. So do keep watching. I've got tons of great advice and practical, applicable advice to put into practice for you guys. So I'm going to keep this manifestation advice very simple to the point, which is what I always aim for with all my videos. So welcome back. Hello to any new viewers and let's jump into it. A great psychological fact I have actually highlighted in a previous video is that people will respond to you, treat you, act according to identity that you're actually consistently projecting. Now, before I jump into the psychology of that, also it does tie into manifestation. It's not about, oh, well, this is just the fact of life and that's what's going to happen, good or bad. Your SP will simply respond to this psychological fact. I'm using this to highlight how you can use it in tandem and use it to kind of propel and help you understand manifesting an SP, because identity that you have, what you project, how you carry yourself, act, speak, all of that, your decision and motivation for everything that you're doing, tied to SP, relationships, dating, is going to come from your internal assumptions, your beliefs, your confidence, your self-concept, your faith in the process, and just knowing how things are going to unfold in your favor. All of it is tied into one. It's not just, oh, there's this psychological fact and there's nothing you can do about it. It really does support and highlight how manifestation works. So this is called projective identification, all tied into how your identity, what you project, is how people are going to respond back to you. Yes, it does tie into self-concept, but if you apply this specifically for your specific person, it's about unconsciously teaching your SP how to treat you based on who we believe that we are. So of course this can be supported and propelled and boosted by working on self-concept, and sometimes that is needed for a specific person simply because you are potentially struggling, spiraling, feeling doubtful, not understanding your own value, holding your SP on a pedestal. All those kind of things can definitely be resolved with a bit of self-concept work as well. So obviously an example would be, oh, I'm difficult to love, and then that would obviously just kind of phase into how you act and leak into the way that you behave and come across, and therefore, unconsciously and through your subconscious assumptions, it's teaching and projecting out to SP, oh, this is who this person is, this is how they just expect to be treated. So it really does change how you carry yourself, how you act. And of course, your SP naturally begins reflecting that, because it's about what you've consistently told yourself, even not to say that anyone's to blame for negative beliefs or anything holding an SP manifestation back, but it's what you've held on to and kind of built up in your own subconscious mind, because that's the version of you that's been the most consistent. That's what your internal reality has anchored into, has held on to, has built assumptions that have kind of fed into all your relationships, your 3D reality. And then obviously with self-concept and positive affirmations tied in together, anything that boosts your inner conversations and how you think, basically apply manifestation, loop your affirmations, your mental diet, that's really what your inner reality is, that's your mental diet, all really changes how you think and therefore changes how you act. So when you change how you think, it's going to change how you carry yourself, how you speak to SP, how your behavior on social media, your day-to-day behavior, what you prioritize, how you respond, just being able to be more grounded and balanced instead of jumping to worst case scenario or spiraling because you saw something from SP. All of this is tied in together, and it's like a little cycle where step 1 goes into step 2, into step 3, and then you get the result, and then you just continue it. So you want to make sure you understand this. And you know, okay, maybe SP was behaving that way due to projective identification. And what is my internal reality? And you can kind of reverse engineer it in that way where you understand, okay, maybe this triggered me and this is where my underlying beliefs might be. Maybe with this affirmation, I'm still kind of in that old story a little bit. And you can kind of see maybe what triggers certain things. So what you want to do is when that does come up, or self-criticism, self-doubt comes up, you replace that inner talk and that internal criticism that, yes, we all do have to some degree, but change it into, I'm always chosen, I'm deeply loved, I'm prioritized, I'm chosen, you know I'm valued, and it reflects in how SP treats me. And just really focus on that as your identity, because that's who you're going to be as when this is your full manifestation, full outcome in your reality, right? So start telling yourself that now. It's not just, okay, if I say this 1,000 times, SP will text me. It's, I'm literally becoming the version where my reality has no choice but to conform, because I'm literally the version that already has it. And I'd also like you guys to comment below, which assumptions do you most connect to, or do you think are best, such as what I mentioned, I'm always chosen, I'm deeply loved, I'm prioritized. I'm curious, is there something else that maybe you guys connect to more? But it really all means that your emotional baseline will start to change as well, which ties into feeling triggered and spiraling and, trying kind of overthinking things, feeling anxious. It really will boost your confidence if you stay consistent with it, if you keep building up these assumptions, and if you really just focus on, okay, I'm going to become the version who doesn't check up on social media, who doesn't compare myself to other women, other men. And your behavior, your energy, and the actual assumptions and expectations that you have, such as SP texting really quickly, prioritizing you, choosing you, pursuing you, all of that begins to change. When your internal identity starts to shift into this version, SP will start to reflect it too. You cannot have your own internal reality, literal assumptions and thoughts and visuals, everything that's going on internally shift, and there just be no improvement in SP. So it's really about your new identity becoming more secure, your confidence being boosted, everything just coming together, which usually comes from consistency, teaching yourself these new habits, these new thought patterns, ways of thinking, and not just letting things fly on autopilot. It really is about people naturally connecting to and responding to the version of you that you embody, the version who is chosen by SP, the version who is confident, wanted, valued, high value, the prize. You don't necessarily have to put yourself on the pedestal. It can be more equal, but you no longer keep SP on the pedestal and say one person is better than the other, and constantly worrying and doubting and comparing. When you do become more secure and consistent with that, it all starts to reflect externally. From a quantum perspective, it's super fascinating, and I've explained this a lot in other videos, but your observation and the observer, in this case, you guys manifesting your SP, observing the reality where you have your SP, that observation is literally choosing which possibilities actually become your reality, which infinite possibilities collapse into the one that you have observed and held your visual and your focus on. So your assumptions are literally going to choose and determine which version of your reality continues. And what are you going to actually reinforce, be consistent with, apply repetition to, not just give up or spiral and give in to loads of doubt. What are you actually going to hold on to and keep building on and teaching your mind, teaching yourself, this is my reality, it's starting to feel more real, this is what I connect to, because it's all about the dominant assumption. So again, this should help you maybe not feel triggered by something in your 3D circumstances where you see something online, some form of communication or lack of any form of communication with SP, and then your mind would instantly jump to this thought. Well, guess what? It's your dominant assumption that matters. So that's why consistency is so important. The more consistent you are, the less those things will phase you, and the less it has any impact on your mindset. One fleeting negative thought or reaction is totally fine. So what I want you guys to hold on to and recognize is that changing your dominant assumptions about your relationship, about who you are, what life you're living, which in this case would be your ideal reality, having the best, most amazing, healthy, happy, committed relationship, if we're going straight to the end, because changing that dominant belief into that and building that up, it doesn't happen overnight usually. That's okay, and that's totally fine and normal, but it's built up, and that changes the actual reality that you experience with your SP. So when you stop filtering this relationship and your current reality and current circumstances through a state of fear or lack, comparison, especially doubt, that is literally the version that you're no longer reinforcing. You're pushing that to the side. You're acknowledging and saying, that is the old story. I'm not going to keep reinforcing it. I'm not going to keep up this cycle, because I know a lot of my clients and you guys watching, you experience the same issues over and over, or you feel like it's not quite ending, not quite going away, and you don't know what's going on. When you stop giving your attention to that and you are consistent in no longer giving your attention to that, getting further and further away, separating the old circumstances from the new story that you keep your mind focused on, it just stops eventually being your reality. So another reason that really ties into this and the internal identity that we're talking about today is that people, not consciously, and you would never label it this way, as saying, oh, today I'm identifying in this way, but what essentially is happening is they're identifying and connecting to and thinking as if, and just still assuming, believing, feeling that they are manifesting, that they're still in a state of lack. Keep falling back into, I know a lot of you guys watching might be able to relate to this, you keep falling back into this pattern or reactions and thoughts of, when is it going to happen? I'm still manifesting. Why isn't it here yet? SP is still doing this. Just different types of thoughts that reinforce you're in a state of lack. You don't yet have the relationship. You don't yet have the outcome that you want. And honestly, I think that is one of the biggest reasons why people are not yet seeing movement. Another thing that happens is that your attention, your focus gets anchored into the old story, into the version you don't want. If, for example, you are constantly, or at least have a habit of checking the 3D, checking for messages, which, by the way, if you're in a committed relationship, you wouldn't be doing that. You would just know, okay, I know they had a busy work day today. Oh, they said they're doing this and that today. That's probably why I haven't seen a notification or heard a phone call from them yet. If you're in a relationship, you're going to think like that. You're not going to be constantly refreshing and checking out of insecurity or doubt. So all of that is just keeping you anchored to the version of to the version of reality where you don't have it, right? To the old version, maybe the one you've still been experiencing up until now. It's keeping you anchored in that moment because you keep going back and keep reaffirming, I don't have it, I don't have it, I don't have it. So I want to ask a question before I finish up with my final points of advice for this video. Do you think that you are manifesting this from a state of fear or certainty? Trusting, maybe not fully believing or fully knowing, and that's fine, but a state of certainty where you believe in it, you trust in it, you feel confident and excited, or from a state of fear? Identify the assumption that you always go back to. What is the main story and main assumption you have about your SP, about this relationship, about what you're manifesting? So basically, what's that automatic story that you go back to or that your mind just automatically goes to about your specific person? So before you try and change or force your circumstances and analyze and question everything that's being shown visibly in your circumstances, focus on first changing and kind of rewriting the inner story, the inner identity, who you are, who you're holding, what you're holding on to as yourself. So that maybe was a little bit nuanced and a bit of an odd way to phrase it. But what I mean is those adjectives, those states of feeling chosen, wanted, valued, pursued, prioritized, just those feelings that you would have with your specific person. That's what always precedes a change in circumstances. So something I'd recommend as well, it doesn't have to be a strong or long visual, but some form of visual where even you're just speaking descriptively so your mind can kind of fill in the blanks and build a bit of a visual for you, such as scripting. But think of a visual where you're experiencing a scene, a moment with your SP where you feel valued and chosen and respected. And yeah, chosen is the key word here, where they see you, they value you, and they say, I want you, I want to commit to you. So try and hold on to and apply some repetition with a visual like that, an end scene, an observation in your mind, in your thoughts, where you're going to the end, where you see that, you feel that, you connect to it in some way mentally, even like I said, just verbally. For me, and I know for some of you guys, based on your comments, of course, it also comes down to my faith. For me, I tie it in very much with aligning with God's plan. And that doesn't mean, everything is pre-planned and we, do not choose our own path or actions, but God's design for us and what God has provided for us, for my life, all the opportunity, and God wanting me obviously to manifest everything I want and just have an amazing, well, not manifest, but receive and have an amazing life. And I obviously use manifestation as well to get there mentally. But all of those healthy, loving relationships in the context of this video as well for you guys, they already exist. So I believe and connect to how in God's perfect order and design for us and everything that we can have and everything being available to us is already in existence. So for me, the faith definitely helps as well. So an interesting way to look at it as well for your specific person, just people in general, people in our lives, they change because the version of us that they are responding to has literally changed. Meaning your internal reality and thoughts and the way you view yourself, your self-concept, your beliefs, all of your assumptions, everything like that has shifted, has improved. Maybe specific points going from negative of, being difficult to love, as I highlighted earlier in the video, that has changed. You've worked on it, you've acknowledged it. Maybe it can be phrased in a different way. It doesn't have to be one specific phrasing for the assumption, but you've recognized there was something missing, maybe something a bit negative. You work on it, and then your SP is going to respond differently to you because that fear and those thoughts are no longer there. So stop waiting around for the movement to show up and actually realize that you're creating it. It's up to you to create the movement. If you're not happy with what you're seeing and experiencing, if you think it's slow, or you just think things are not the way they're supposed to be, I don't feel good about my manifestation, start thinking, feeling, behaving, acting, carrying yourself, working on your self-concept, talking to yourself in the mirror and your thoughts. Just start thinking and internally experiencing the version of you who's already there. So remember that any fleeting thoughts or fleeting concerns is not what your SP is going to respond to and kind of view you as and reflect. Those are just maybe fleeting thoughts. It's your dominant assumptions. So that's why I say the consistency is important. So you actually build up the positive assumptions. So ask yourself, how would you think? What would be different in your life if you already felt and believed and knew that you were in this reality where your relationship is already perfect and healthy and amazing and exactly as you want it to be? How would you think? How would you carry yourself? What would you do? You can kind of fake it till you make it, that type of approach, a bit of a placebo effect, but it works on your subconscious mind. The more you do it, the more you think it, the more it builds up into the new story, and that's what gets reflected in your reality. So consistency is always the key, and I'm going to leave it there.